This right here is the RG35XXH, and is very similar to the RG35XXSP. They both have essentially the same chipset, and they have the all-winner H700. They have the same amount of RAM at 1 gig. They both have the same capacity battery at 3300 milliamp hours. They both have 2 micro SD card slots, a headphone jack, and that's pretty much where the similarities end. So let's talk about which one of these you should get and which one makes the most sense for you. So the SP obviously has a clamshell design, so this is significantly more pocket friendly than the H, despite the fact that it's pretty much twice a stick. The good thing about this is you don't need the case, you don't need anything else, and it is pretty sleek, and there's nothing that's going to be catching on your pocket or anything else. And obviously, because it's a clamshell, that protects the screen. Whereas the H, one of the great things about the H is it has these 2 analog sticks, right? Which means that it's going to be significantly easier to play, say, N64 games, Dreamcast games, any system that requires a stick of some kind. So that's good, and they're fairly low profile as well, so they're not going to stick out too much, but it is going to be harder to take this in and out of your pocket because these can catch quite easily, and also because unlike a clamshell, there's nothing to protect the screen, right? Well, this is completely enclosed. You can literally chuck this in a bag or in your pocket and just be done with it. This, you're most likely going to have to get a case, which adds bulk and, just makes it a bit more annoying to carry around. Also, because this is a horizontal form factor device, right? It generally just makes it more comfortable to hold. You have these 2 small, rubber, sort of bumps at the back that add a bit of grip. If you take a look at the width of these 2 devices, right? The position in which you hold your hands is significantly further apart for the H than it is for the SP, right? For the SP, you're going to be holding it like this, which is still fairly cramped, and it feels good, but for prolonged periods of use, it probably would start to cramp your hands a bit, just because they're so close together and there's not much space to maneuver or anything, right? Whereas on the H, you have much more freedom of movement, The buttons are spaced out more, there's less of a sort of cramped feeling, There's places to rest your thumbs, either on the joysticks or on the buttons themselves. And overall, basically, this is going to be much more enjoyable to play for long, extended periods of time. In terms of the triggers, both of them have inline triggers, with the L2 and R2 being slightly raised above L1 and R1. And again, it's the same here for the SP, slightly raised triggers. So they're not going to be as comfortable as, say, a Retroid Pocket, anything really, 3, 4, whatever, because those have stacked triggers, which just makes it much nicer to actually depress. But still, it's easy enough to press if you really need to. And because the triggers wrap around the sides, it's quite easy to press with this part of your finger as opposed to actually the tip. So the SP has front firing speakers, which means the sound is going to be directed straight towards you, whereas the H has downwards firing speakers, right? So the sound is going to be firing downwards into most likely the palm of your hands. So your hands are most likely going to be cupped in some way when you're holding this device. So the sound is basically going to bounce off the palm of your hand and hopefully be directed mostly towards you, depending on your grip and stuff. But obviously, quite a lot of the sound is going to be absorbed by your hand and dissipated into your surroundings. So it's not going to sound quite as good, but it should sound good enough, and I don't think it's too much of an issue. So in terms of the face buttons, as you can probably hear, so the triggers are quite clicky and loud. The rest of the buttons are very quiet and very nice to press. On the SP, I mentioned this point already, as have a bunch of other people, but the buttons are very loud and tactile. And obviously there's no joysticks either. So overall, which one should you get? I think if you're using it purely as an emulation device, playing PS1 and below, and you want to travel a lot, the SP is definitely the way to go. Purely because, again, it's a clamshell style, so it's easy to just chuck it in your pocket and travel. And if you're traveling, you're not going to be doing extended gameplay sessions, right? So it's not much of an issue that it's a bit cramped. Also, you don't really need a case for this. You can just chuck it in your bag and be done with it. Whereas if you're buying it more for a general use case, I think the H probably is the better buy, because again it's a bit wider. It has joysticks if you need to play higher end games, or if you want to play games streamed from your PC, then this is definitely the way to go. Yeah, I'd say get the H if you really want joysticks to play higher end games, and also if you want to do game streaming and stuff like that. But generally these two devices are very similar. In terms of prices, I think the SP goes for $65, whereas the H goes for about $68. So this is actually slightly more expensive, I would assume, because of the joysticks. They're both great devices. They will both emulate games exactly the same. The performance and everything else between these two devices are identical. It's just about the form factor and which one appeals to you the most. So if you'd like to see my unboxing of the SP and just some game performance across this chipset, click somewhere up here, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.